To the outside world, our lives look perfect, even if in reality, they aren't. What do we want in life? What's our goal? To be productive citizens that are a part of a thriving community? To love? To make memories? May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but let's keep the conversation going.
How do we deal with stigmas in general of folks who have mental health or behavioral health issues, or in the Black community, is just that, we label people. We label people with whatever that condition is, bipolar, early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's, they're crazy. Now you have two things, and so you get labeled that. And so then people react to what they have labeled you. So it's almost like meeting someone who has a hearing impediment. And once the person learns, then they start talking slower.
Right.
Those are behaviors that means that you've assessed and judged me.
Mm-hmm.
When I can hear just fine,
Right.
you just
Right.
we treat people that way. And you should just meet them where they're at,
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. When people become their labels, and other people are doing that assigning, I think it's a way to dehumanize, right, and write off,
Yes.
right, and not have to try and be compassionate or understand or make allowances for, because people, I feel like, sometimes our brain works in like, well, what box do you go in?
Yeah.
Right?
Or get over it.
Right. Yeah.
To get over it.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, any number of those things. And you talked about, how we as lawmakers can be better at that. And the saying that I always hear in my head is, how can we be responsive and not reactive?
Yeah. And then we also have to do something that we don't normally do as legislators, is as we want folks to see things through our lens, we have to learn how to be articulate enough to describe our lens. Right. But we also have to be able to see the other person's lens who's never seen your trauma.
Right. And believe it.
Yeah.
And believe it as real.
Yeah, like if they've never seen that kind of trauma because they're from a different place. Because everybody goes through the same things. They just have cultural nuances to them that make it different. And then in our community, they're magnified because we're stacked on top of each other. Where in a rural community, you may never know.
That's interesting.
And so we, just as much as we want them to see our issues, we got to see their issues.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's also, you alluded to this before, being able to, I think this is tied to compassion, being able to put yourself genuinely in someone else's shoes to try and understand. I think that one of the things that we run up against as legislators is that we have colleagues who have explicitly stated that they don't want to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't force people to do, but like when we're dealing with stigmas, like I think one of the things that has hurt the Black and brown community, other than the system failing, is us ignoring it in our own community.
Absolutely.
And trying to act like it doesn't exist.
And not giving voice to it.
Yeah, like it'll go away. It should be all right.
Yeah. Well, and I that's one of the things that I feel like we have a responsibility for, and being in the places that we get to be in, and the tables that we get to sit at. Like, we have a responsibility to open up, I believe, to open that conversation or to introduce it if it's not being, because we're there, right? Like we get to be there. And I feel like that is, I take that responsibility very seriously. And it's not only introducing the conversation, I feel like, but it's also figuring out who's not at the table, so that we can, again, make better decisions, whether it's around mental health or any number of things that we get to work on. That's part of our job as Black and brown legislators is opening the door for other folks to be able to have a voice too.
Well, again, so for me, I think what happens, and you can attest to this, is when you're the only person at the table, you have to be extremely careful, but extremely articulate. Because as a Black man and Black women go through this too, is I have to be careful in articulating my words so that I don't come across as hostile, because they'll shut down. The people at the table will shut down and say, oh, he's too hostile, I won't work with him. Right. But then I can't be docile or soft in my stance, because then they'll overtalk me at the table, and the issues that I'm fighting for or working hard to bring to light won't make it to the table. So
they're easier to dismiss, because
I'll get labeled or you'll get labeled, and that's a disadvantage.
Of course.
And so you got to make sure that they don't disenfranchise us that way at the table.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when I have conversations with corporations or nonprofits or departments, I ask about who's in leadership. I don't just ask about, are you hiring more Black people and what are you doing to help them? Is what does your leadership look like? Who's on your board?
Sure.
How many folk, like who's there at the table that you respect to make these decisions or give input to how to help the overall community in mental health, in just daily social living skills, and just daily life surroundings, quality of life issues.
I mean, I think what you're saying is, and the way that I'm hearing it is, representation matters in all these different settings.
Yes, representation matters, because everybody has to have a voice.
Right.
And if somebody's not at the table, who's willing to speak up for that group that's not there?
That's right.
So.
Yeah, that's right. And being able to, when we think about, I feel like stigma for different groups, just being able to name something is really important, because sometimes saying it out loud can be that first step.
Yes.
To being able to say, okay, we've identified this, now let's talk about it and let's deal with it. I'm so glad we got to have this really important conversation today. Obviously for both Senator Bullock and I, we're really passionate about mental health and being able to connect folks with not only with services, but really lift up the role that we as legislators can play. One of the main things that we want to leave you with is talk to someone. Like being able and relating to other folks, like being able to talk to someone is so important. That's how we stay connected. That's how we get support from one another. There are so many amazing agencies and organizations in our communities that offer that support. But one of the best tools that we have is one another. And so, ask someone how they're doing today. Reach out to a friend. Don't be afraid for yourself to talk to someone. And especially during this month, during Mental Health Awareness Month, we want you to remember that message.